When people think of Hong Kong, they often picture a bustling metropolis teeming with opportunity, a city that ranks among the richest in the world. It's no wonder that Hong Kong is a magnet for those seeking to study, work, or simply experience the vibrancy of one of the world's most dynamic urban centers. The allure is clear, a place where you can secure high-paying jobs, indulge in metropolitan pleasures, and engage in countless activities. But does moving to Hong Kong guarantee a happier life? The answer, unfortunately, is far more complicated. Despite its wealth and global reputation, Hong Kong faces significant challenges that make many think twice before considering it a dream destination. Today, we'll explore the hidden side of Hong Kong, the darker aspects that reveal a city struggling under the weight of its own success. Housing issues are common in many major cities worldwide, but Hong Kong's situation is particularly dire. Here, the problem is so severe that it has given rise to a unique phenomenon, the cage home. The roots of Hong Kong's housing crisis trace back to the 1950s during the Chinese Civil War, when waves of refugees fled mainland China to seek safety in Hong Kong. In just a decade, the city's population surged by 55%, a growth far outpacing the expansion of housing infrastructure. Instead of implementing policies to encourage the construction of new homes, the Hong Kong government imposed stringent regulations that made it difficult to develop new housing. All land in Hong Kong is owned by the government, which leases it to developers through auctions. These leases are typically for 50 years, making land prices extraordinarily high. For instance, a single plot of land was recently leased for a staggering $2.2 billion USD. This system has resulted in a situation where only 3.7% of Hong Kong's land is used for housing, while 75.6% remains undeveloped. Given the exorbitant costs developers face, they naturally aim to maximize their profits. This has led to the construction of what are known as monster buildings, where tiny, cramped apartments are stacked together in towering blocks. A single room in one of these buildings, often no larger than a closet, can rent for around $720 USD per month. For many, even this steep rent is unaffordable, leading them to seek out even cheaper and more desperate options like cage homes. A cage home is essentially a partitioned space, often measuring just 7 to 13 square meters, around 75 to 140 square feet, with a height of only 70 centimeters, about 2 feet. These spaces are more akin to cages than living spaces, yet they rent for approximately $30 USD per month. For those barely scraping by in Hong Kong's expensive economy, these inhumane dwellings are often the only option. The housing crisis in Hong Kong has garnered widespread attention, especially from the business community. There have been efforts to introduce more humane alternatives, such as capsule homes, but these also come at a high cost. The only real solution lies in the hands of the government, which needs to free up more land for housing development. Until then, the housing problem in Hong Kong will remain a dire human rights issue. Housing isn't Hong Kong's only problem. The city is also plagued by severe income inequality. While it's true that Hong Kong is a land of opportunity, with annual salaries averaging around $58,000 USD according to timechamp.io, this wealth is not evenly distributed. The high average income allows many to enjoy luxurious lifestyles, such as staying in 5-star hotels like the Rosewood or Four Seasons, where rooms can cost upwards of $750 USD per night. However, these figures obscure the harsh realities faced by many, especially the elderly. One poignant example is the phenomenon of the cardboard granny. These are elderly women who are forced to collect and sell cardboard just to survive. Take the case of Shui Lai, a woman in her 90s who still works as a scavenger. On a good day, she might earn around $7 USD, barely enough to cover basic meals. During the COVID-19 pandemic, when Hong Kong's economy slowed to a halt, her earnings dropped to just $3 USD per day, which wasn't enough to sustain her in a city as expensive as Hong Kong. Shui Lai's story is not unique. In 2020, it was reported that 45% of Hong Kong's residents aged 65 and above lived in poverty, a figure that includes over 583,000 elderly citizens. These individuals, who should be enjoying their retirement in peace, are instead struggling to make ends meet with little to no support from the government. The challenges in Hong Kong are not limited to economic hardship. The city's political climate is equally troubling, characterized by government actions that often leave the public feeling censored and oppressed. A stark example of this is the Yuen Long attack in 2019. On July 21st, 2019, a group of men dressed in white shirts stormed a crowded MRT station in Yuen Long and indiscriminately attacked passengers. Among those assaulted were elderly people, children, journalists, lawmakers, and even pregnant women. At least 45 people were injured in the brutal incident. While some initially viewed the attack as gang-related, closer examination revealed a more sinister connection. The attack occurred during a period of intense protests in Hong Kong against the controversial extradition bill, which many saw as a threat to the city's autonomy and democratic freedoms. The timing led to widespread speculation that the attack was politically motivated, aimed at intimidating protesters and suppressing dissent. What fueled these suspicions further was the behavior of the Hong Kong police. Despite having prior knowledge of the attack, they delayed their response by 30 minutes, arriving only after the attackers had fled. This, coupled with the police's later attempts to downplay the incident as a mere clash between rival groups, raised serious concerns about the integrity and impartiality of law enforcement in Hong Kong. Journalist Gwyneth Ho, who was among those attacked, testified that she was targeted simply for doing her job, not because she was involved in any criminal activity. Her experience reinforced the growing belief that the Yuen Long attack was an attempt by the authorities to stifle the pro-democracy movement in Hong Kong. The Yuen Long incident also reignited fears about the influence of criminal organizations in Hong Kong, particularly the notorious triad gangs. The triads have a long history in Hong Kong, dating back to the colonial era when they were composed of marginalized individuals, the poor, and immigrants fleeing civil war on the mainland. According to Sharon Ingrid Kwok, a researcher dedicated to studying triad activities, these criminal groups thrive on illegal enterprises such as gambling dens, bars, brothels, and drug trafficking. There are even indications that triads are involved in human trafficking, particularly in exploiting women as sex workers. During the 2019 protests, rumors circulated that the triads had been enlisted by the Hong Kong government to help quell the unrest. Former journalist Ryan Lau suggested that the polarization of politics in 2019 led the government to collaborate with triad gangs, using them to instill fear in the protesters. The alleged cooperation between the triads and the police only added to the public's distrust. A triad member known as Zen claimed that it was impossible for the police to have been unaware of the Yuen Long attack, given the close ties between the triads and the authorities. This murky relationship between crime and politics in Hong Kong serves as a sobering reminder that beneath the city's glittering facade lies a reality fraught with danger, inequality, and oppression.